that it could be, that
I
it's
think,
not.
I think coherent. I think coherent in this context means like contradictory, right?
Right.
Yeah, there's no
Okay.
contradiction. There's no contradiction.
Wait, so I guess maybe I'm not. I guess I'm not getting my actual question forward, and maybe I don't really
Well, like
understand.
think about it
Wait,
again.
wait, wait,
Remember the
can I
analogy I gave with
question?
witches, right? I don't think the idea of a witch
Oh,
is like I don't think that's like an incoherent concept of a witch, right? An old woman who can do
we saw
magic,
if we
right?
did witches. Wait, that's a good example. So if we did see witches, this statement would stop being like false. It would become true. A statement that all witches wear black hats or something, right? Now, if witches turned out to be real, suddenly that statement becomes true. So there are some imaginable worlds where the statement could be true. So I'm asking, is the same thing true for the categorical norms where there are some imaginable worlds where a
I think with
categorical
what
be
it
true?
means for something to be categorical is that it's true in all those worlds, right? So the fact that you can
That's not,
have, I'm sorry.
I'm asking specifically, is there like an imaginable world where a categorical norm could be true?
It would have to be in all worlds for it to be categorical.
It's always wrong to lie.
Wait, hold on. I thought the categorical norm was simply like a norm that was something that you should follow, even regardless of your own aims, desires, or goals.
Right.
So I understand that categorical in other contexts talk about something being true in like every world or whatever. But it seems like the name you have given to this thing is categorical norm.
Yeah,
Am I-
categorical norms, they have to be the case in all possible worlds.
Okay, but listen, I'm just asking because you're analogizing to the witches, right? You're saying that, like, okay, the statement that like all witches have black hats, for example, makes it's not true because there are no witches, and the same is true for like statements about these categorical norms. They are false because there are no categorical norms. But in the witch analogy, you could imagine a world where there does exist witches, and they do have black hats. And in that world, the statement all witches have black hats becomes true. I'm asking if
Witches
the
are
same thing
contingent
is true.
or not.
Oh, what?
What that person say? I couldn't hear them.
Yeah, but witches are contingent, right? The point of objective moral norms, they're not contingent.
Yeah, that's
Right.
what. Yeah.
So then I guess the
The
issue is
analogy is supposed to show like how you would show that something is a statement is true or false
it
based
seems
based on the existence of things within that statement. It's not supposed to be a witch. It's not that everything about a witch can be can transfer over to everything about a categorical norm.
what I'm also like maybe I can try to get this question to in another way. So what I'm trying to get at is like the question about, is there something that we could see either like in the logic of the world or in like by observation or something that would change your mind that there are categorical norms? Or are you saying that like this is just logically impossible because it's like incoherent or like it doesn't make any sense to say that a categorical norm can exist? I'm just asking like if it's based on some observation or things like this, or if it's just an impossibility.
Well, some
Well, there
people
is-
do think that they're incoherent, but who was talking?
No, I think it was directed to you, so go ahead. I was just gonna say that there are like a priori arguments to say that there couldn't be such things.
Okay, so what will and those arguments are what?
You could post one in the chat.
Can you just say it?
It's a pretty long argument.
Oh, okay. Wait, do you have one of those? Do you know one that you like, Sunseed? Sunseed? Like this?
Right now. Where'd you
yeah.
post it in the chat? Let me
I
jog
just-
my memory.
Yeah.
Categorical moral norms exist. They're robust, non-aggressive. Transsubjective. I don't know what transsubjective means. Innovation. Right.
I have no idea what any of this means.
So he's saying that you would be able to differentiate between the different types of norms. One of them being categorical norms, which we've explained, and the other one being an institutional norm. Now, an institutional norm is kind of like, you know, the rules to soccer, right? They're rules that multiple people that like you know, multiple individuals agree to. So the rules aren't dependent on your aims, goals, or desires, but they're still like you know, dependent on the aims, goals, or desires of agents, right? You could follow the rules of soccer, but you know, you yourself would be pissed off that you can't use your hands when you're playing soccer, right?
Okay.
Those are institutional norms.
Okay.
Right. And so the argument that was just given by Sasha is you would have to be able to, well, correct me if I'm wrong, Sasha, you would have to be able to demonstrate this difference between a categorical norm and something that's just an institutional norm.
Right. And the idea is you couldn't do that because there's nothing to appeal to. That wouldn't, like, you could appeal to something inside the norm, but it would just like beg the question. And then if you appeal to something outside the norm, I can just ask again, like, in virtue of what should I accept that norm, right? Because if you're gonna appeal to something in virtue of what I should accept your norm, like, you're just gonna be appealing to another norm. It can't be that, like, I'm supposed to accept it in virtue of some physical fact, right? Because that won't tell me what I should accept or not. So it has to be normative. But then for that normative thing, like, why should I accept that? And then again, right? Like, either you're gonna say, well, it's just because, like, it's within that thing, which is like back the question, or you could appeal to something outside it. But then we just have like an infinite regress because I can just do that again. That move is like always available to me, right?
Well, it could be like, I think like the issue here is that I'm not really sure what like means that something is a norm. Like something that you should do, but it's kind of like
Something that you can
unclear.
be in and out of accord with. In or
Excuse
out
me?
of accord with.
What did you say?
It's a
Something
standard
that
that you should be in or out of accord with. Like
That you
if
could
you're
be.
moving you're moving the king
Yeah, but it should.
all the way across the board
You know,
of
I
chess,
but it
you're
should.
out of accord with one of the norms of chess.
Right, I understand that, but like the question is like, what does it mean that you should be out of
Could
accord?
be. You could be. Not
You
should.
could be.
Right. So, like, it does make sense to be in accord with some, like, I don't know, like physical description. Well, like, it doesn't make sense to say I'm in accordance with like an apple or something, right? But I can be in accordance with like the rules of chess, just say like I'm moving like my pieces as it is understood, like, you know, as it is described in the chess rulebook.
Yeah, I think like the issue is, I think we're talking about two different things. So here's a question I have. Let's say I say that murder is wrong. Okay, not necessarily like it's not necessarily saying like you should not murder. It's saying that murder is like morally wrong. Do you think that's a true statement or a false statement, or does it make no sense? Is it subjective? Is it objective?
I think it's a false statement.
It's a false statement.
Right.
What is it that makes it false?
Well, because when you say it's wrong, just take wrong to mean like you shouldn't murder, right? That's what it means, like to say something is wrong.
Well, I don't know if that's necessarily what it means.
Well, then what does it mean?
Well, what it could mean is that there's like a moral force to the world, right? Like an underlying moral force, and this moral force means that it is wrong to murder.
But you just invoked wrongness again, and I asked you to define it. So
Yeah, so this moral force is the thing that gives something the wrongness. This is what
right,
morality
but you're just
is about.
appealing to the same concept in the definition. So
So the force, like the goodness force, would create something we call wrongness, which is what we intuitively like speak about when we talk about morality.
goodness is defined, or sorry, wrongness is defined in terms of wrongness.
Yeah, in terms
What
of
is
this
goodness?
force. Yeah, in terms of this force.
Yeah, but then what is goodness?
Goodness is this fundamental force underlying the universe, like time or space.
That doesn't really give any kind of normative value to goodness.
Right, I don't know what it is, right? Like if you're gonna say all,
Yeah,
if
goodness
all
would
that
just
you're
be
gonna
the
say
thing,
is
the
that
thing
it's
that you
just a
should
force.
adhere.
Like,
Should be the thing that you adhere to. It would be like a force that is like good, which means that you should adhere to it.
You're talking about physical nature laws. That doesn't have anything to do with moral norms.
Right.
I wouldn't use the word force. The word force, it implies, the word force implies something that is capable of being measured, that affects the material reality in its own like measurable way.
Sorry,
like,
Sasha. We jumped in. We jumped in on top of Sasha. We should back off. Sorry, guys.
It would be. It would,
This is deep.
it would be measurable. So like this like moral.
Okay, it's measurable, but does it affect the material world in and of itself?
Well, everything that is measurable has to affect the world, right?
No, not really. Not really. No.
Well, you can only measure the world. To measure the thing, you would have to measure the effect of the thing on the world.
No, you can create measures that are completely subjective that have no grounding in reality at all. Like for example, I can
I
say
don't know. I
I can say I am 5 oranges smart. I just made it up. Like I'm not 3 oranges smart, but I'm not 6 oranges smart. 3 oranges smart is very smart. 6 oranges smart is medium, and 5 oranges smart is extreme.
You just
You know? So like I just made up a measurement. So not all that can be measured is objective or can affect
Right.
reality, as you can say.
Of course it is. But like you just made like a weird language to describe something. But
Exactly. That's another issue that I have with moral subjectivism. Just exemplify.
Listen. So here's like how you would measure this. So you have like a moral meter in your head. This is like what humans have, in the same sense that you have like a visual meter in your eyes and so on and so on. You can experience like the redness of red. You can hear like what
no, I
sounds.
understand what you're talking, right? It's just like
And you can experience moral. You can experience this moral force
right. So
that makes something good.
yeah. So I mean, the argument I posed is still gonna apply because like there could always be a hypothetical agent who's gonna have a different meter in his brain, and to him it's gonna be like I don't know, either unmotivating or motivating in the wrong way.
Right. So there's the other guy who believes his moral meter tells him that it's good to
it does,
murder.
right? It's not a belief, right? It does.
Right. Yeah.
It's
So
not just a belief.
well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But like, let's say his moral meter tells him that it's wrong. It's good to murder, right? And then like you could ask, oh well, we have like these different moral meters in our heads. Who's correct? But it seems like you're in the same dilemma as I'm walking down the street with my friend, and he says there's a blue elephant right in front of us, and I look in front of us and there's no blue elephant. Like his visual meter is malfunctioning. He's hallucinating.
Right, but you can say that because like if you analyze it further, like he's gonna say, well, the elephant is gonna produce such and such
Sorry, my Discord crashed. Well, his visual meter is like malfunctioning in the same way that my other friend's like moral meter malfunction.
Right, but in virtue of what are you gonna say that the moral meter is malfunctioning?
I'm saying that like if the moral meter is measuring a force, that doesn't mean that just because we have like different ideas about what this moral force is, that doesn't mean that the moral force doesn't exist objectively, right? My friend could be wrong about it.
The moral force might exist objectively. That's not what I'm questioning, right? It's
Okay.
how we are motivated by it, right? In virtue of what is one person motivated in the right way and the other in the wrong way?
in virtue of whether or not their moral meter is functioning correctly.
But that's just begging the question.
How so?
So let's say that you say my moral meter is malfunctioning, and like you say that, right? I ask, well, in virtue of what is it malfunctioning? And you just say, well, it's malfunctioning because it's malfunctioning, right? Like you eventually answer.
No, I'm saying it's not. It's malfunctioning because it's not measuring a moral force. Correct.
Well, that's just repeating it, right? Because that's just
No,
what malfunctioning is.
so I think there is an issue here with when you invoke like begging the question. Everything that is like every logical like proof or whatever stems from like some assumptions, and then like it just follows. Like it is like the case. And you can interpret that like that can feel like it's begging the question because like, oh yeah, of course you set up the premises and this followed, and it seems like you bake the conclusion into your premises, but that's not actually true. Here we're talking about we're taking the premise of like a moral force underlying.
No, fine, right? So, but if that move is allowable for you, it seems like it's allowable for me, right? So I'm just gonna help myself saying that you are wrong because you are.
Yeah, you could say that, and that's true in the same sense that my friend who sees the blue elephant could tell me that I'm wrong, and I can't actually. Maybe I am hallucinating that there is no the blue elephant there. I can't really know if I'm hallucinating or if he's hallucinating or both of us, right? But one of it is wrong.
Yeah, but you can suggest a method of adjudicating that, right? But
I'm no.
Asking you can suggest like a method of like adjudicating it, right? You can say, well, if there really was an elephant, like if I reached out to touch it, would you like feel it, right? And then maybe like you can do that.
And then he reaches out and he feels it.
Right.
Yeah, what happens then?
Another way, right? But
and when we do all of our tests, and for all of the tests, it comes out that it exists for him, and it comes out that it doesn't exist for me.
Yeah, and like, what are you gonna appeal to, like, adjudicate?
Exactly. So that, like, so we can't know who's correct, but it's still like one of us is objectively wrong, or maybe both of us, but at least one of us is objectively wrong. So why is this not the case in the moral statement?
Well, it's not really like, because you're in both cases you're just gonna be talking about like your experience, right?
Right.
Right. So I mean, if I experience there to be an elephant, like I might be correct, right? And I might say my vision is malfunctioning if I test with my other senses.
No. So all of your senses could be
malfunctioning. Both senses, and from what I can tell, like it's more plausible that there is an elephant.
Well, okay. So then here's like a simple question. If we do see this, my friend sees this blue elephant in front of us, and I don't, and we do all of our tests, and it comes out that he always detects the blue elephant and I never do it. Is one of us wrong? Or is at least one of us wrong? Are we objectively incorrect?
Yeah, but it seems like you've already stated that you can't adjudicate it, right?
Right. I'm like, so when I, even if you don't know who is wrong, you could say that one of us has to be wrong, right? Even though you don't have the information of determining who, you could say that, oh, since these are mutually exclusive, one of them has to be wrong, or both of them are wrong. So I'm asking you, would you say that that's true? When I say there's a when he says there's a blue elephant and I say there's no blue elephant, is one of us objectively wrong?
There is a blue elephant. Yeah, that's gonna be a true dichotomy, right? There is a blue elephant or there is no blue elephant, right?
Right.
But that's not gonna be analogous in the moral case because it's not a true dichotomy.
Why not?
Because, well, it could be that one of you just says murder is not wrong, right?
Right.
Right. But that's not what's going on. We're saying one of you is saying murder is good, and one of you is saying murder is wrong. And in those cases, both of you could be wrong because murder could just be nothing, right?
Right, but that's true in the elephant case as well. Could be that like there is no blue elephant there, or there is
right, but that's just what that's just what you're saying.
Or well, so okay, you're right. So let's say that I say morality is, or sorry, murder is right, and my friend says the inverse of murder is right is true.
Right, the inverse just being that murder is wrong or that murder is not right.
I guess whichever is the actual logical inverse.
But I don't know. I'm asking you. It's like
Yeah,
specify what
so
you
I
mean.
would interpret them to be the same.
But they're
I would
not
say
the
both of
same,
them.
right?
Well, that's my interpretation, which is you can decide whichever one you think is the logical inverse.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take it that the logical inverse is that murder is not right.
Okay. Yeah. So if we say this, is at least one of us incorrect objectively?
Yeah.
Can you? So then we are making moral statements, and we are objectively incorrect about them, right?
Well, so error theory is gonna like allow moral propositions like murder is not wrong to be correct. There's no problem in error theory for that.
Murder is not wrong to be correct.
Right. And murder is not right is also gonna be correct. So if you take those to be moral propositions, then yeah, error theory allows those.
Oh, I need to digest this a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not the case that murder is right. It's not the case that murder is wrong. Well, I hate using murder as an example, right? Because it's almost something that's defined as unjust, morally unjust or something like
No,
that.
I just mean
But-
legally in the US.
Right. Yeah, if you use it in that way with no moral element built in, then it's fine.
Yeah.
Well, I don't really understand what it means to say that morality, like murder, is not right, and that is true.
Well, it means that murder. So let's take something more concrete, like killing, right? Like killing is like gonna be say some subset of physical actions, right? So murder can be realized, or sorry, killing can be realized with those like different physical states. And you want to say that those physical states share this property that makes it such that if you, I don't know, are in a certain relation to them, like you promote it or you engage in it, like you're somehow like incorrect, right? You're mistaken, objectively so. And I'm just saying that it is not the case that you're somehow objectively mistaken or something like that when you like have some sort of attitude towards it, one way or another.
I'm not really following. I kind of. I'm sorry. I really phased out. Wait, could someone else try to explain this to me? I'm not really understanding it. Someone else who understands what he's saying. Okay.
I don't know, Susie, do you get what I mean?
I'm a moral realist. I just have this intuition that it's some things are just objectively wrong, and it's called imposition of will.
No, that's a pretty sophisticated position.
Oh, is Murphy's Law here? Murphy's Law?
Hey, do you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I can hear it. Wait, were you listening to Sasha?
No, I was doing something else.
Oh. Wait, Sasha is advocating error theory. And he's saying that murder is not right is correct. That's like a true statement. Now he's trying to explain why that is a true statement to me, and I'm not really understanding it. Could you listen to Sasha and then explain it to me?
I can explain how I understand why I think that statement is kind of like wrong.
Yeah.
I think like when you say, I could be wrong on this, but like I feel like when you say more like murder is wrong, you're just saying like you. What does that mean? What does it mean for something to be like that to be wrong? It just means that you should not do it. I don't understand how we
Oh.
get like an ought from.
What if it means that like there's an underlying moral force that you're detecting with your moral detector that says that like murder is wrong?
I don't.
That's
I'm
not
just not
that's
sure what
not
that thing is.
actually. I mean, that's not the type of moral property that moral error theory is used against, right? What you've described maybe like a moral detector that's universal to humans, but it's not anything that's subjective.
But it would be objective. Or like, why wouldn't it be objective?
It'd just be universal to humans.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't even be universal. Like we would have disagreement, right?
Well,
Like-
then it's not objective as well. I mean, it's based on
Well,
our
it
aims,
would-
goals, or desires. How else do you have disagreement?
it would be objective in the same sense that like your visual field is objective when you
But it's
detect.
something that's just universal to humans.
No, because like some people can detect a blue elephant when there is none because they're hallucinating, right?
Some people can what?
They can detect like a blue elephant when there isn't one because they're hallucinating, for example.
By the way, Sunseed, were you listening to what I was saying?
I don't see
Sounds
how
like-
that's not. It's still something that's universal to humans. It's not something that's independent
Yes.
humans' goals and
So
desires.
the detector could be universal, but it just could be malfunctioning in certain humans that think that murder is right when it really isn't.
Right, and so that's something that's not really like argued against in by moral error theorists. They would just say that that's not like a moral detector. That's just a detector of certain stimuli.
And so I think that it could be a moral detector while it's also a detector of certain stimuli. I'm not sure what, like, I guess your eyes are like a detector of photons, but they still provide you with a sense experience, right? Of vision. It would be the same thing for the moral detector.
Wait, but I thought we went through this already.
Trying to say
What?
here is we're able to, you know, measure what's being taken in by our eyes scientifically, whereas there's no such thing for like anything moral.
Well, you would be able to detect it scientifically. It's in the same scientific sense that you can detect psychological aspects, right? You can detect like, oh, this person like feels that you can detect for yourself. For example, you can say like, oh, I feel like murder is wrong, right? The same thing is
Go out and poll people about that, but again, that's not anything. That's not the type of like a moral property, or that's not the type of detector for moral properties that moral error theorists say don't exist.
No, but I'm saying that like when you would ignore going out and polling people, just talk about yourself, right? When you like consider like murdering, you actually feel like it's not, it's like immoral, it's wrong, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
It's tasteful to me.
yeah, well, you feel like it's wrong, right?
Right, but
It's
there's some
like-
people who feel like it's right.
There's a difference. Like imagine just like eating a bowl of poop, right? Like eating a bowl of poop, that's disgusting and distasteful to you.
Yeah, but there's some
No.
people who won't find that disgusting or distasteful.
Exactly. We'll get to that. But like, let's say eating a bowl of poop, that's distasteful to you. Raping a child is distasteful to you, but it's also wrong. Like you feel like it's wrong. Most people feel like it's wrong. Some people don't, right? In the same sense that certain people actually see blue elephants because they're hallucinating. Their vision meters, their sight meters are malfunctioning. In the same, and that's what's going on, or could be going on, in people who like don't think it's wrong to rape children, right? But there is a
You would be able to say that one is malfunctioning and the other one isn't malfunctioning.
Well, you wouldn't be able to say which one is malfunctioning, but you would be able to say that at least one of them is malfunctioning.
Why?
Well, in the same sense, like let's say that I say that there's a blue elephant, and you say that there's no blue elephant, and we can say, well, at least one of us is wrong. Like at least one of our vision
We've
fields.
already been through this, right? Yeah, but we've already been through why like this analogous. Because with the elephant, it's like a true dichotomy. But with right and wrong, it's not a true dichotomy.
Yeah, so I guess like we've been through it in the sense that I don't really understand. Like that was like where we got stuck, where you explained like how this can, like this the statement "murder is not right" is true. I'm not really understanding why that is the case, and I was asking if anyone could explain that to me, except for you, because then maybe they can give like an alternative perspective that makes me understand that.
I don't really understand what the usefulness, like, personally, the view you're describing, I don't think makes any sense at all. I don't think it's even coherent, right?
Why is
But
that?
let's just say that it is.
Wait, can you explain
Why-
why it's coherent?
I mean, I can. Well, I think the argument that Sasha posted, I assume that's my argument, right? I mean, I didn't.
I got
look
it
at
from
the
Vic,
text.
but I don't know.
Yeah. So that's an argument that I developed. Right? So I think that argument establishes that categorical norms can exist. But let's just leave that argument aside, right? And let's just pretend all this nonsense, right? That there
What is the
is
nonsense
a
that
fact
we're-
of the matter, that there's a fact of the matter about things that make no difference to experience, right?
Yeah, they,
All this
yeah,
garbage, right?
But they
Let's just
do-
pretend that that's true.
I'm not
Let's
really
pretend that
understanding.
that's true.
Wait, I'm not really
Let's just
understanding.
pretend. Let's
So let's-
pretend that
before-
let's
before you
pretend
start-
that the
Wait,
situation
wait.
you're describing
We're not-
makes
Finish.
sense.
Wait, I'm not understanding. I need to. If you continue explaining, I'm not going to be able to follow. So when you say these, like we're pretending that this is true and it has no impact on like experienced reality, what is it that doesn't have an impact on experienced reality? Because it seems like more like the morality that I'm speaking about definitely has a significant impact.
No,
on-
you're saying that it can be the case that somebody is mistaken about there being an elephant, right?
Yeah.
Even if that actually makes no difference, even if that fact makes no difference to their experience, right?
Well, what do you mean by it makes no difference to their experience?
Well, you're saying that they can have the exact same mental contents, regardless of whether the elephant is there or not.
No, they would have different mental content. Like for example, they would have the mental contents of there's a big blue elephant right there. But that wouldn't like that thought would not be there if they didn't have that experience.
You're saying that if there's no elephant, nonetheless, they can experience an elephant, right?
Yeah. So they would have an experience.
Yeah.
like,
So I
be
don't
hallucinating.
think that kind of thing makes any sense.
They're
But let's just
hallucinating.
say that it does.
Let's
Just say that it does, right?
when you
Let's
say
say that makes sense, right?
wait. When you say it makes no sense, are you saying that what if they're hallucinating, for example? Doesn't it make sense then?
Well, I just take it that hallucination.
Sorry, you
I
cut
just
out.
take it that hallucination is only a meaningful notion, right? If it has some potential consequence for experience to distinguish a hallucination from a non-hallucination, right?
Yeah, and there would be, right? If you were not hallucinating, you would be detecting like real reality where that does not contain a blue elephant. And if you are hallucinating, you are having this extra thing in reality that makes you not experience the objective reality.
No, but the point is, right, you're saying that no observation could make any difference to that. There's no independent test.
No,
you can
wait. So
construct
I don't think that's
that
important.
could establish it, right?
No. There could be other there could be other like senses that could maybe indicate that this elephant is not real. Like let's say they reached out and touched the elephant and they actually don't feel anything. Or
So
they
now
don't-
you're just changing what you said before
Yeah,
because Sasha posed those kinds of examples to you before,
Yes.
and you were just saying, well, even in the case of the other five senses, nonetheless, they would all coordinate to establish.
Right. So I'm saying that even if that wasn't the case. I understand that I did say that before, and I am changing it right now because I don't think it matters. So let's say that they saw a blue elephant, they reached out and they touched it, and they couldn't touch anything. They could walk through it. It would only be there in the
Look,
visual sense.
the objection that I'm trying to make
Wait, could I
turns
finish
on
my
the
point?
idea, but it's irrelevant. The objection that I'm trying to make turns
Right.
on the idea that there's no independent test to establish which is correct, right?
Yeah, there
Because
isn't.
that's what you're saying. You're saying, right,
There isn't
that there's no independent test to show who's hallucinating and who's not hallucinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So does that mean that neither of us is objectively incorrect when I say there's a blue elephant there and he says there is no blue elephant there? Is
I
neither
think it does.
objectively-
I think it does mean that, but it doesn't matter. Let's just say that there is a fact of the matter about it, but there's no independent test, right, to establish who's right.
My Discord crashed. What did you say? You think it does?
Yeah, I think that shows that there's no fact of the matter about it. But let's say
Wait,
that's wrong,
let me
right?
understand. Wait, let me understand this. Are you saying that if I say there's a blue elephant there, and he says there is no blue elephant there, neither of us has to be objectively incorrect?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Because I don't think that perception is normative.
What if he's hallucinating? Is he not
Yeah, so I
objectively?
think hallucination, right, is only a meaningful notion if there's some kind of objective test, right? as
No,
to
like
who's
just
right
imagine
and who's
the real
wrong.
world. Just imagine the real world. So he's hallucinating this big blue elephant, and when he touches the big blue elephant, he goes right through it. But it could be that he's actually seeing real reality where there's a big blue elephant that is actually transparent, or whatever it's called, where you can go through it, right? Yeah, transparent. It is always visually there. It like bounces photons off itself in such a way.
I don't think there's such a thing as right or wrong perception, right? I don't think it's a normative notion. But what I think we can say, what we can do is say that there's different explanatory hypotheses for perceptions, right? Which we can then decide upon on the basis of explanatory virtues, right? But see, what you're describing is a situation in which there's literally nothing to appeal to establish which hypothesis is correct, right? Now, I don't actually think that's even intelligible. But let's just say that it is an intelligible. Sorry, let's just say that it is. Let's say it is an intelligible view. Sorry, I'm going to have to switch to voice activity because the button keeps malfunctioning. 1 second.
In virtue of what is it malfunctioning, Jack?
Wait, I didn't really understand that guy.
Yeah.
Is that guy saying that like when
Sorry. So what I was saying was, let's say it's an intelligible view. The view you're defending, let's say it's intelligible. And I take that view to be that there's a fact of the matter about whether something is true or not, regardless of whether there's any test that can establish it, right? For any observer, right? Let's say that's intelligible, right? I think it's just complete nonsense, but let's just go with it, right? What would be the interest of a view like that? Right? Because it would be indistinguishable from the error theoretic view, right? Like if the error theorist is saying there's no fact of the matter about whether murder is right or wrong, right? Or you could phrase that another way and say that the statements murder is wrong and murder is right, or murder is good and murder is bad, right, are both false. That's the error theoretic view, right? Now let's take this kind of like crazy realist view that you're defending, this transcendental realism, right? Where there is a fact of the matter about it, but there's no test to establish it as to who's right and who's wrong. What difference does it make? What difference does it make which position we
No, there is a
adopt, right? Since it has no implications whatsoever.
there is a test. There is a test.
Well, then if there's a test, then what is the test?
So the test is the same type of test that you would use to establish whether or not the blue elephant is there or not. Okay?
You just wasted all of my time, right? The whole point was that you were saying that there could be a fact of the matter about it even if there was no test, right?
No, so it kind of like depends on if this test has to be like definitive. There exists no definitive test, but it does exist a test that we think is strong enough that we would say that the blue elephant is actually not there.
Let's imagine you had 50% of the population think there was a blue elephant, and 50% didn't think it, right?
Yeah.
And there was no test, right? Now you want to say that there's a fact of the matter regardless.
Wait,
right?
can I ask you about that situation? Like, let's say that 50% of people say that there's a blue elephant right there, and 50% of people say that there's no blue elephant right there. Is 50% of the population incorrect?
Is 50% of the population what?
Incorrect.
I don't think so, but you think so, right?
Okay, I have another question. What if there's like, if 99.9999, or if
I don't
everyone...
see what difference it makes. That
Right.
doesn't
Yeah, let me
appeal
just
to
ask it anyway.
popularity, right?
Let me ask it
doesn't
anyway.
have, it's not of any interest, right?
Let me just ask it anyway. So if everyone thinks that there's no blue elephant right there, and one guy thinks that there is a blue elephant right there, do you think that the guy who thinks that there's a blue elephant there is incorrect?
No.
Okay, so then I have a third question. Imagine that there is a guy that is hallucinating a blue elephant for whatever reason. Do you think that he's incorrect?
Again, I've told you my view, right? I don't think
How do
perception is.
you know that he's incorrect?
I've told you what my view is, right? My view is perception is not a normative notion. So in cases of hallucination, right, when we say that we've correctly described some experience as a hallucination rather than veridical, we have to actually appeal
Okay, what is
explanatory,
veridical?
meaning true.
What is veridical?
True. Meaning
Oh,
true.
okay. Being true.
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
For there to be a fact of the matter.
You cut out, Jack.
For there to be a fact of the matter as to whether there's a hallucination or not, right? There has to be some possible test that would establish which was right and which was wrong, right? If there's no possible test, right, then it's a meaningless question to say that one is right and one is wrong, right? That's the view that I hold.
Wait, can you provide this test?
I don't know what the test would be, but if there were such a test, right, that could establish
I'm asking you,
that one was right or what was
the
wrong.
blue elephant, what is your test to make sure that he's not, like, that he is hallucinating?
I don't have a test, right? I'm just saying that for that to be a meaningful question, right? For that to be a meaningful...
Cut out again.
I think that there's like misunderstanding
For
here,
that to
Jane.
be a meaningful dispute, there has to be some possible test, right?
Yeah, here's like where I think you're making like a fallacious point.
Yeah, but
okay?
I don't know what the interest of you saying that my point is fallacious is, right? I'm not trying to defend the view.
Right, I think
right?
you're
I'm
making
just merely
better.
telling you what my view is.
Right,
Right? Because you
thinking you're
asked
making
me,
better.
right? What I'm trying to say is, you have a different view, right? Your view
Jason,
is...
when I say fallacious, I just mean you've made like a thought error. So here's the
Yeah,
thought.
that's fine. I'm not interested, right?
Why not?
My view is because I don't think that you even understand what I'm saying, right? And so it's just going to be a waste of time.
Let me put this thought to you, and then you can react to it. Okay. So there's like it seems like there are scenarios.
this is just not relevant to the point that I'm trying to make. Right?
Well, you haven't heard what I'm saying.
not trying. Yeah, but I'm not interested, right?
But you
I'm
don't
not
know
interested in trying to defend my view to you, right?
Wait, I don't care. Listen, if you don't want to have a conversation, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I want to have a conversation
I'm not
about
interested
the
in just
topic
having.
that I brought up.
Yeah,
right?
I'm not.
And the topic
I'm
that
not-
I brought up is
I'm not interested in
that
just.
if you had a view, right, in which there was no test, but nonetheless there was no possible test, but nonetheless
So
there could be a
here's
fact
like
of
the
the
issue
matter.
I see with that. When you say that there is no something cannot be like objectively true or false if there's no test to define who is correct or who is incorrect, that seems like it's not true in a lot of situations. Like it seems
Fine,
like
it doesn't matter.
if wait, hold on. If I give like a coin to two people, and one of them says, I have this coin, and the other one says, I have this coin. One of them is actually speaking like an objective truth, but we might not have a way of actually determining who is speaking like the correct or the actual truth, right? It could be that this coin is indetectable for us for some reason. And the
For all
reason I brought
possible
up this
observers,
aspect
right?
of like the blue elephant
Indetectable
and like
for all-
hallucination. Wait, one second.
Indetectable for all
Wait,
possible
one second,
observers,
let me just
right?
finish. Let me finish, okay? So the reason I
you're just
bring up
wasting
this
a lot
like,
of my time.
wait, the
with
reason I'm bringing up
nonsense,
the
right?
yeah, but just address it because it's important to the thing you're proposing.
I'm asking an important question of clarification, right? You mean indetectable for all observers, right? All possible observers.
No, I mean no, I mean like just indetectable for us in this very specific.
Yeah, but that's not the case that I'm talking about. I'm talking about cases where there's no possible test, right? For any observer.
I understand.
Right? Yeah.
I understand.
So
But
now, in those
this
cases,
idea-
right?
Wait, hold on. But this idea that something
You're
cannot.
saying you understand it, and then you're using the example that I've disallowed. So that just means you don't understand it.
Well, I understand that this is a statement that you have made, but I don't
No,
see
you're
where.
not understanding the statement that I've made.
Okay, I've understood that this statement is one that can be made, but the
You're
the
using
thing I'm
an
not
example that I've
the thing I'm not
already
really
found
understanding
as being
is when you're
admissible.
saying. Wait, the thing I'm not really understanding is when you're saying that if something does not have any like test to determine if it is true or like who is true, saying the truth and who is saying the falsehood, then no one is actually saying the truth or the falsehood. But it seems to me
If there's no possible
that it's
test.
very, very possible that something could be true and or
Yeah, I
false
understand it seems that
and
way.
be undetectable.
Yeah.
So can you justify why you think that if something is undetectable, it makes no sense to say that it's true or false?
I don't see why that's of any interest, right? Me justifying it. The point
Wait,
is,
can you repeat that?
what I'm trying to say is,
But I
is
cut out
that
a little bit. I forgot. I didn't hear what you
I
said.
don't see why that's of any interest, me justifying that, right?
That's what you believe,
The point
right?
is, that is what I believe.
Or can you
But
explain why you believe it?
I don't see why that would be of any interest to do.
Well, I'm interested because that might help me believe that.
I mean, if you want to read about pragmatist epistemology, I can just give you some papers on it.
No, I just want to hear you're just like
Yeah,
why
but
you think this.
that isn't why I intervened in this discussion.
Wait, if you don't want to actually have a conversation where you're engaging with what I'm saying, I don't want to have
I do want to have a conversation
Yeah, then
engaging
engage.
with what you're saying.
Then
Yeah,
engage.
so what I'm engaging with is the point that you made, that
I
is a
don't think you can
coherent
justify
scenario, right?
I think you're talking
Sorry?
out of your ass, dude. I think you're talking out of your ass. I think
That's
you're just
fine, I
saying
don't
it
care
to
if you think
bullshit,
that.
and you have no
That's
clue.
fine. That's fine
You have
if
no
you.
clue how to
I don't
justify
care.
it.
Look, I don't care if you think I'm talking out
I
of my.
think you're an idiot, dude.
Look,
I think
that's
you're a
fine.
moron.
I don't care. I don't care
I
if you
think
think I'm an
you're
idiot.
an old,
Unless
stupid moron.
it doesn't
Can you,
mean
like,
anything.
be quiet and let other people
Yeah.
talk?
Yeah,
Please?
just shut
Okay.
up while I'm talking, okay?
Right, you're
So now
stupid.
let's just go with the point that you made, right? Your claim is that such scenarios are coherent, right? So let's just grant that for the sake of argument. I think it's nonsense. I don't think that's even an intelligible conception, right? But let's just say that it is, right? If there's no possible independent test, how is it any different from error theory in practice?
Well, I don't know. I'm really curious why you say that, like, it is nonsense. Can you explain that?
I don't see why that would be of any interest to do.
But it is interesting because it doesn't seem like nonsense to me.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to learn about it, I can give you some papers to read.
No, I would rather you explain it.
Yeah, but I don't have an interest in explaining it to you, right?
I think you're just
What I'm
making
interested in trying to
You're
understand,
saying.
what
I
I'm
think
interested in
when
trying to
you make things
understand,
over, they're
why
not
do
gonna
you keep
justify the thing you're
over-talking? Is
saying.
there a mod here? Because I'm getting tired of being over-talked.
Because
by
you're
this
just
dumbass.
monologuing.
I'm getting tired of being
engaging.
over-talked. Is there a mod? Detroyer? Is Detroyer here?
You're not engaging with what I'm saying.
Is there a mod here?
Yeah, stop interrupting, Cookie.
Yeah. Okay.
Wait,
So let's just
as much
let's just deal with the situation that you've described, which is that such scenarios are intelligible, right? Let's just imagine that they're intelligible, right? What practical consequence could there be in establishing or convincing somebody to not be an error theorist, right?
Well, the practical.
If in fact there's no actual test of which is the correct moral proposition.
Yeah. So the practical utility would be the same practical utility there would be for saying that, like, there's such a thing as someone hallucinating a big blue elephant when there isn't really one, right?
It's like you don't listen.
Wait. Let me
understand. You didn't get the point is that we do have the ability to differentiate between that stuff, right? But
yeah.
You just said that we don't have any such ability in the moral case.
Wait. Let me get to that. So, and please do let me finish because I did stop interrupting. So, when it comes to the big blue elephant, you say that there's like a way that you can determine if this is the case, but like the standard that has been put forth that this is like 100% knowable actually can't be fulfilled for the big blue elephant. Imagine that there's one guy who says that there's a big blue elephant, and no one else says that there's a big blue elephant. Now, conventionally, we would just say, well, that guy is just crazy. That guy is just hallucinating. There's something wrong with his visual system, because we can appeal to popularity, right?
What is this even doing?
Well, so this is how you would justify that the big blue elephant doesn't actually exist, correct? Or do you have a better test that can tell us 100%?
It's not relevant.
Yeah,
it's not relevant.
Really
the point is, if all you're doing
it is relevant.
To popularity.
Wait, let me explain why it's relevant in that case, and then you can point out why I'm incorrect about that. But the reason it is relevant is because you're asking me, when is this practically useful compared to like error theory? And the reason that it would be practically useful and the reason that it would be different is because you would have the exact same argument about morality that you would have about the big blue elephant, right? You would have the same test. You would be able to say, oh, well, if you're not an error theorist, you could say murder is actually wrong. Because our moral meters are telling us, and we can use the same test as we use for the big blue elephant, which seems to be good enough for us to say that someone is hallucinating. Now, can you explain why that is not like relevant?
Because the error theorist can appeal to popularity too.
Yeah. Okay. How does he appeal to popularity?
Just says most of us feel this way.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And so that person is crazy by our lights, right?
Totally fine.
That doesn't mean that there's the fact of the matter about it, right?
Well, it would. So the difference there would be that one would say that there is a fact of the matter and the others wouldn't.
Well, that's just a verbal statement, right? It has no actual implications for practice.
It does have implications. Like there are different. Well, there are differences in saying like subjective, like morality is always just subjective, and
I'm not seeing it.
The other person is saying that the morality is objective.
Yeah, I'm not seeing what the difference is.
Well, the difference is just like a belief about the world. Like you could, there, of course, there will
No,
be
the
behavioral differences.
people behave the same way either way.
No, there will be massive behavioral differences. Now, I don't know if
What's
these
the
are necessarily
difference?
rational.
What are the behavioral differences? I'm not seeing it.
So for example, if people believed that it is simply subjectively wrong to murder, they might not believe, they might trust their own senses when it comes to murder, when otherwise they would have not, right? So for example, someone who does not feel bad, or they don't feel like it's wrong to murder, they might not murder if they believe that this is an objectively moral wrong. But if they're convinced that it is a subjective moral wrong, they can say, "Oh, it's not actually morally wrong for my subjective opinion."
I don't understand.
So their behavior might change.
I don't understand, right? You said, right, there's just going to be people who are outliers who we then appeal to popularity, right?
Yeah.
To say that they're mistaken.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yep.
I just don't see how that's any different from the error theorist appealing.
I just explained it. Just explained why
I
that's
I didn't understand it. Did anybody else understand it? It just seems to me that person's not going to be moved, right?
Well, they would be moved in the same way that, like, let's say that I see a big blue elephant out on the street, and I ask everyone, and everyone tells me, dude, there is no big blue elephant out there on the street. Now, if I believe that reality was simply subjective, I would believe that there is a big blue elephant out there. If I believe that the reality is objective, I would assume that I'm hallucinating, right? It does change my behavior in accordance to what I believe like reality is.
But if every way that you can test whether the elephant is there or not, it's just
No, I can run through it. The only way that big blue elephant is out there on the street is in my visual field. When I walk,
you can test it in other ways.
They're asking
it could be a big blue elephant that is also like only visual.
They're asking what the utility of that is.
It exists. It bends like photons in this sense.
So wait. So, are you saying we can test it in other ways? What is there?
Well, you would be testing, and you would be making sure that, oh, there's actually not a big blue elephant that you can touch in this guy's field of vision. So you could test that, right, by simply touching it and saying,
test it.
Yeah, he could also test it. Like, he could touch it and say, oh, it's actually like I can move past it.
So it's not an appeal to popularity.
Wait, but that big blue elephant could just be a big blue elephant that you can go through.
Okay, so
it's not an appeal to popularity. There is a test.
Well, so this test is the same test as anything else. This is not a test. You're not actually testing the big blue elephant. You're testing for a big blue elephant that can be touched. And then you're testing,
popularity or not.
You're not testing that, like, they're...
Yes or no question.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's going to be an appeal to popularity. So this big blue elephant.
It's not a test.
This big blue elephant could be transparent, or is translucent, whatever. You could move through it, right? But when you touch it, you wouldn't actually be measuring and noticing that, oh, this big blue elephant doesn't actually exist.
Popularity.
Yeah, you're not understanding it, Jason. I think
if it just bottoms out at an appeal to popularity, does anybody understand it? Because I just don't see how there's a test if it bottoms out at an appeal to popularity.
It does bottom out to the appeal to popularity, because I would simply ask everyone,
That's just subjectivism.
I would just ask, oh, hey, is there like a blue elephant?
Do you understand the problem with saying, Cookie, do you understand the issue? Hold on. The issue he's pointing out is that if you say it's an appeal to popularity fundamentally, as he just said, it's just going to be based on subjective criteria, right? One group of people could disagree with another group of people, and presumably you have no way of differentiating between the two groups.
Yeah.
Right, so what's the response?
We've already gone through this. Right,
so what's the reason?
That's silly.
Wait, so here, the idea that you can't differentiate and tell, like, who is correct, that isn't a problem. You can't do that for hallucinations either. When one guy says...
How is it not a problem if you're attempting to determine what's a hallucination and what isn't?
My explanation of it. You're interrupting my explanation. So when one guy says there's a big blue elephant,
problem because we could just appeal the popularity. You're
why
going to go in a circle again and again.
why are we interrupt? Like, do you want to have the
Am I
explanation?
wrong? Am I wrong?
All right, what did you say?
I said you're saying it's not a problem because we could just appeal the popularity.
Well, no, that's not what I'm pointing out. So Pogan is saying that there is no definitive test to make sure who is incorrect or who is correct in the moral case. But in the big blue elephant case, that is also the case. However, in reality, when we encounter people who who have hallucinations, we have a test.
Popularity. That's
exactly.
what I just said. You're repeating yourself.
Yeah. So but the question is the same. So that's what I'm saying. We've already gone through this, but Pogan asked the question anyway. So I'm repeating my answer to the
All you're
question.
doing is defending subjectivism, right?
I don't know if no, I think what I'm doing is...
That's what appeals to popularity.
morality.
That's what an appeal to popularity is.
Cookie, do you know what subjectivism is?
Well, so I think that there are different subjectivisms. In the moral case, I'm definitely not defending moral subjectivism.
Well,
you could
what would moral subjectivism be, even though you aren't defending it?
Let me just finish my thought. You could maybe say that it's an argument for real subjectivism, that everything is subjective.
What is real subjectivism?
It would be the idea that reality is simply subjective, that everything is
How is that? What the fuck are you? You don't know. You don't know even what it is that you're saying. You're saying words, but they don't even have any meaning.
Brenda is the best right now. Holy shit, man.
Wait, that's not true, right? If you say...
Real subjectivism, that's just subjectivism that's real. That's what he said. He's an idiot.
If you say that the blue elephant is real because I see it, you would say that reality is subjective, right?
No, I wouldn't. If I think the elephant is real, I think that reality is objective.
No. So let's say that there's a big blue elephant.
When people say things are real, they're not. It's not an indication, typically anyway, of what people are describing as some interpretation, right? When people I'm almost done fucking talking, man. Hey, when people say things,
Brenda asked me a question.
Look, there's 42 people in the room. You're gonna have to live with the interruptions a little bit, right?
I'm talking.
When people say, you can respond to her. You can respond to her in a second, right? When people say things are real, they're communicating that it exists regardless of their agency. That is to say, if they were all to be fucking eliminated, it still exists. So you saying it's real subjectively is just a contradiction in terms as far as we're concerned, right? That's what Brenda is pointing out to you.
So here was the disagreement, I think. When I say that something can be when reality could be subjective, imagine that someone believed that, I see a big blue elephant, and when I say the big blue elephant is there, that's true.
That's just you saying true. It's not real.
Oh wait, why are you into I'm gonna have to turn you down, Pogan. If someone
you're such a coward, man. Jesus Christ. Why don't you just respond to the criticisms? I don't understand.
Wait, I feel like that's kind of reasonable.
If someone he's the coward.
But that's just he feels like it's reasonable. It's just an appeal to. Oh my fucking god!
If two people say there's a big blue elephant there, and the other one says there is no big blue elephant there, and they both say, both our statements are true.
Yeah, the two people have
believe in subjective
reality. The two people have what
something is simply true because it appears in your subjective mind.
Right. The two people have what is called intersubjective agreement, right? But merely those people saying, "Hey, yo, there's a blue elephant over there," is not an indication necessarily that that's the reality. The fact that 66% of the sample group agrees doesn't mean it's real necessarily. And you're trying to insinuate that that's the case, right? You're trying to insinuate that all that's necessary to define something as real is some sort of intersubjective agreement.
I'm sorry, Pogan. I'm going to have to turn you down.
Wait, if I have to turn Pogan up, I don't want to talk to him.
Did you hear anything I just fucking said?
Turn Pogan down. Just don't bother.
Did you guys know that Pogan put on a
standard response.
trial?
Just turn Pogan down.
Did you know that Pogan put on a whole trial to get Bacon Bone banned in the server? A whole trial. And then he unbanned Bacon Bone from her server.
Oh, fuck.
And brought Bacon Bone into a server.
Yeah, yes. Everyone attack Pogan now.
Wait, I just want to say
Wait, Cookie, do you wanna come down?
Yeah, run away. Run away. Goodbye. Flee. Flee the scene. Flee the scene.
Why did you put on a whole trial in the server to ban Bacon Bone?
Flee the scene, man.
Your server.
Wait, if Brenda wants to continue talking about this, do you want to go to another room, Brenda?
No, I would rather go to hell and have just be constantly. Well, no, I'm starting. That sounds hot. Okay.
But Logan, why did you have Bacon Bone banned in a great big trial here, and then the same day bring him and unban him to your server?